Available. Here we are.
Okay, we are live. So welcome back to another town hall, and I'll share my screen. We'll look at some notes here. As a quick update, point of order, we are sort of in the process of transitioning these where Adam and Jason are going to be sort of taking over these town hall meetings. And especially since that project that Wildmont is working on is kind of a primary focus right now, it makes sense to have Adam take the lead on these. So at least for right now, I'm just going to be kind of continuing to host, and I'll set up the live stream and all that until we can get that transitioned over. But I'm just going to go through some of the early items here, action items, and then the hub post, and then from there I'll just hand it over to Adam and he'll handle the rest. So we're kind of in the midst of transitioning things over. With that said, we'll take a look at action items here. John, did you have a chance to send your e-NABLE presentation template or templates over to Adam?
I don't think so. I'll do that as we speak.
Excellent. I sent mine over this morning, Adam, so you should have those. I also sent you the collection of community print materials that we have, a variety of documents, Adobe Illustrator stuff, and other editable formats. I did notice that it was these materials were created in 2018, so they are definitely in need of updating, but they will hopefully give you a starting point for some things that, you know, the intent of
wild to me to think that 2018 is so far in the past when it still sounds like the distant future.
But the intent of those things was to give volunteers and chapters materials that they can use to easily edit and use for promotion and getting the word out and hosting events and all that other good stuff. So hopefully it'll provide useful.
Gotcha.
And then the last action item was for Adam to use those materials to prepare some kind of a template with speaker notes for our volunteers. Obviously that will come later since we're only now sending our templates over. So we'll leave that one on. I'll go ahead and cross these two off. And I'm going to skip on down. No change with the e-NABLE fund balance, although I expect there will be as soon as Adam, as soon as you're able to file your first quarterly expense.
Yeah, we logged that last week, and we've been working with Evan. I believe Evan initiated that transaction a couple of days ago, but he indicated there might be a few work days.
And there's usually a delay in him updating the open collective.
No worries at all.
Yeah, I might not even be seeing the current balance, but that's fine. All right, so a couple of posts to look at here. Christoph has a comment on the bike adapter, it looks like. Let's see. So this was a bike adapter that we looked at last time that Christoph shared. Looks really nice. And there was some discussion. Sarah shared our discussion from last week. And Christoph came back with thank you for our kind words and interest. He's using the free version of Fusion, so I can't make it available for download. Oh, I was not aware that that was a limitation. Interesting. I thought that the free version was fully functional. Interesting. Okay. He's attaching the F3D file. Okay, well, that's a fully editable Fusion file, so that's fine. Just as a note, another option is that you can just right click on your object in Fusion there, Christoph, and export. There's an option to save as a mesh. You can just export it as a 3MF file or an STL file, which is what our volunteers usually share. Those aren't editable, but for people who just want to download and print, you could consider doing that as well. Maybe put it on Thingiverse. Oh, and here's another version for a bigger child or adult. So it looks like he did figure out how to.
No.
No, is this view only?
It is also view only.
Okay,
if you look at the additional comments, you'll see that I got into the picture, but.
Oh, I see. There's more here. Okay. You were able to export Socket Flex children, okay, to STL, SketchUp, if that's useful. For the bigger version.
But Jeremy, if you scroll down, we'll get to the point. Christoph said,
well, so he said there are STL for bigger bike helper, zip file, and F3D file. So he's sharing those files here. So yeah, I would say generally speaking, STL and 3MF are the most useful formats. Slicers are kind of in the process of shifting over to 3MF as a more efficient file format. So most slicers nowadays support both STL and 3MF formats. And it looks like we now have both designs shared here in STL format. So I think people should be good to go, as well as the F3D files.
Right. Now notice Albert's comment just above. Two
Okay.
paragraphs. Yes. There's a call out to you.
Is there any way to update about its publication and list of devices? Well, I thought I answered this in another post.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think Alberto reached out to me on another post, and I explained to him that I'm no longer handling the device catalog, that Ian Roy is in the process of updating NIH to be our new catalog, and he said thanks for putting him in touch with Ian. So I think that's been addressed. This was probably before that other comment that I responded to in a separate thread. So
And
I
I
think
see that
Alberto
Alberto has moved to Onshape,
Oh,
FYI.
excellent. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, I didn't want to read the whole thing, but did he share access to the Onshape?
I don't think
project?
so.
Okay. Well, he can if he wants to. That's great. And I see that you're proposing the possibility of a paid license for $40 from TechSoup. That's a pretty darn good deal for Fusion 360. Interesting. Is that, oh, is that a single license?
Well, it's a single license for 1 year, but whether people can take turns with the single licenses,
Got it.
it's not clear.
Got it. Okay. I'll have to look back into it. I thought that they offered a fully functional version for people using it for charitable work or nonprofits.
You know, I
something like
remember that
Or
also, but
maybe they changed that. I don't know.
I think they did.
Okay.
$40 is not a lot of money.
No, it's not. It's just, it would be nice to be able to not be limited to a single license.
That's
So,
right.
okay. Well, I mean, Onshape is a great alternative, so it's nice to see others starting to embrace that. Alberto, oh, I think this is actually the thread I was mentioning. So he's talking about this device configurator, which is pretty cool. Now, I had tested out and I shared some feedback because I wasn't, I guess it was a minor issue. Whoops, that's the wrong link. That's the GitHub link. Where's the actual link? There it is. We'll see if he's fixed this already. When I clicked on this, when I went to select a device type, yeah, so it doesn't hold your selection like it's still, so I reported this to him, but he says it's actually working. It's just not updating the dropdown, but the selection is actually working. So it's not a critical issue. It's just, I thought it wasn't working because when I click on something, it still just says select a device, but apparently that's just a display issue. So anyway, he said he will fix that. And it was through the comments on this post where he was asking me about updating it. And I explained here that I'm not managing the catalog anymore, that Ian Roy is in the process of doing so. And down here, he also said, thanks for pointing him to Ian Roy. So I don't know exactly where that project is at. That's something that we're going to have to follow up on. I think Ian Roy has been out of town. So Adam, that's something that maybe you can help us kind of get an update on. Supposedly, we're still in the process of updating the NIH 3D site. And it looks like he's got Jason Tothy. I don't know if that's an intern or not, but adding a whole bunch of designs. It seems like it's even growing since maybe the last time I looked. I would love to see the left side here further improved, because right now the filters are all based on like printer type and printer technology and material that's not very useful to us. I'd love to see filters based on, limb difference type or, task type or, assistive tech type or, things that are relevant to us and be able to filter accordingly. I don't know if that's an option or not. That's a change that the NIH people would have to make, but otherwise.
Are any of us in regular touch with Ian these days?
Isn't he still running the education meetings, the new member meetups?
He's been away for a while. I've emailed him a few times over the last month, and I've just gotten automatic away messages. So
Okay.
I'm
He
So
was one that
listening
I tried
this
to
month.
contact.
Right, he's at Brandeis. It's summer, but I do see there's progress being made on this website. But Jeremy made the same comment last week that he did last time, and my guess is that Ian didn't hear it either time.
Says here he's away from the office until July, so that's passed. Let's see. What was the last message I had? Wow, it's been a while. Happy to coordinate this again this fall. Should I coordinate with Jasmine directly? Also loop in. I'm heading to Greece through June 21st. Okay, well, that's passed.
so he's catching up now,
I
probably.
guess.
I'm just wondering, Adam and Jason, is his project and talking to him on your radar as part of your survey of our assets and projects?
It hasn't been, but it certainly can be.
I think
And it looks
should
like
be.
a while back, he shared this, looks like a draft for a proposal for Lumio to fund an intern. I guess he intended for John, you and me to review this, and I don't know that we ever got back to him on this. It looks like he was hoping for a $1,500 funding for an intern, 20 hours a week for 4 weeks, which I'd love to support if that helped us get this NIH project done, but I don't know that he ever moved forward with this, so that's something we should follow up on.
Okay.
Do you all want to talk to him about the potential for that internship? And if nothing manifests there, we can jump in to see how Wildmont can support.
Well, we can, but I also emailed him more recently because I got this inquiry on the hub from a college student, Jet Manley, who is saying he's a student at Louisiana State University, and he said, hey, I'd love to help out with that NIH catalog if you need somebody, and he wasn't even looking to get paid as far as I know. So I passed him along to Ian. Again, never heard back, so I don't know if there's been any contact between them.
I'll reach out to Jet.
Okay.
You said, where did you say Jet's located?
He's at Louisiana State University.
Hey, Jason.
And here, I'll put his email in the chat for you there, Adam.
Jason's neck of the woods.
And
I'm close to home there.
excuse me. If you would like, I will phone Ian, leave a message, and suggest that Adam will get in touch about scheduling a call. I'd be happy to be in on that call. But
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
it would be good
To
for
sync up, yeah, that would be good.
us all to sync up. Okay.
Jason, you can meet him in Atchafalaya National Wildlife Refuge.
Yep.
Which is halfway in between.
Nice. Sounds pretty. All right, and the last one here is a post from Adam introducing the Wildmont project, and maybe that's a good segue over to you kind of taking over from here, Adam.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds like a good guy. So Wildmont is live. We are really excited. We've been busy this week trying to do some baseline reconnaissance on where we might want to focus our targets. I threw together a presentation that I just wanted to present to y'all before we get too far down the line to make sure this is in line with where you thought this was going to go, and making sure that we have our priorities and steps. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you can see that, please.
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so we are kicking off beginning in Q3 of 2023, which is right now. We have, based on the issues that have been identified over the past several months, the conversations that we've had in these town halls, and in some conversations that have been had on the hub, as well as my own personal biases and understanding of e-NABLE's current position and where we've come the past decade, we put together a general roadmap for what we think the next quarter should focus on, as well as some overarching goals that we think would be good mission and vision targets for the next couple of years. So to that end, I want to make sure that we're in lockstep on e-NABLE's current state. So in the past decade, obviously, the people on this call, as well as other e-NABLE founders and people who have been big tent poles in making this organization happen at its inception years and years ago, have been really successful in bringing together a large number of people who have not only skills, but also the sort of nascent goodwill to try to affect some kind of positive change in the world. I think that e-NABLE has been really successful in designing and delivering a number of devices for individuals in specific communities, people who are, close personal friends, people who are friends of friends, or just happen to stumble into e-NABLE's network and were able to make use of its resources. And I think that's a pretty powerful and incredible thing. What we have been less great at is turning this sort of collective force for potential good into a kind of focused machine for making kind of a more lasting change, both globally and in specific communities around the world. That's been my big driving force. It's why I joined e-NABLE in the capacity that I did last summer. And it's what I hope we can really focus our energy on in the coming years to make e-NABLE more of a lasting institution. So to accomplish that, I think there are a couple of questions that are currently unanswered that I think we should work together as community, yes, as the people on this call, but also more broadly as the thousands of people who are part of the e-NABLE Hub. A couple of basic things. Number one, how do we define and measure success for e-NABLE? Like, what does success mean? And is that a question that even matters to this community? Like, are we trying to be successful in any capacity, or does that kind of run against the idea of a decentralized network that y'all have been trying to build here? If it is an important metric, and if it's something that we want to work toward, how do we define it? To the goal of defining success, what is our mission and what is our vision? Why is e-NABLE here? And what can we package basically as sort of like the core nugget that justifies e-NABLE's existence that we can give to, for example, potential sponsors, to give them a real clear sense for what our members are doing and the communities that we're attempting to assist. And then finally, speaking of sponsors, after we've defined our goals, after we've outlined a mission and a vision, how do we generate the time, the money, the resources to accomplish those outcomes that we're seeking? So that's really what I want to focus on in the first few weeks, is trying to get answers to these foundational questions and trying to find a way to make sure that we're building up an apparatus that can support the answers to those questions. Does that make sense? Should I pause here for some discussion?
Sounds good so far.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. In that case, let me hop into my understanding of where our initial areas of focus are going to lie. Our priorities are to engage and energize the e-NABLE community. I think reaching out to people like Ian Roy and trying to just like connect the dots, or just harkening back to that conversation we were just having. I think that e-NABLE, because it is fully a volunteer network, it's really hard to feel like there's a sense of urgency or instill timelines in any of these projects, which results in just a ton of stalled activities and things where people have great ideas and great intentions, but maybe less than great follow through. And that's not to call out Ian Roy specifically. That's just, the example we were just talking about. I mean, I've certainly have started a number of threads that I haven't seen to fruition since I joined the community here. So I think that this is an equal opportunity issue that I think we could capitalize on to make it a little bit more target focused. Area number two, which is really just justifying Wildmont's partnership specifically, as well as expanding our potential for impact, seeking and securing new funding sources and partnerships. Jason is going to talk about this in a lot more detail. This is really going to be his wheelhouse, and so he's going to be focusing here on how we are defining different areas of partnership and how we are going to be crafting more specific strategies for pursuing those different areas. Beyond just funding partners, also seeking out partnerships with individuals who are philosophically aligned with us, partnerships with other organizations that where we can take turns piggybacking each other. I think that there's a lot of opportunity here to behave a lot more like a formal organization even as we sort of reject having a large, global e-NABLE nonprofit umbrella. I think there's a way we can toe that line while still working toward those larger objectives we're trying to accomplish. And then finally, and this also kind of goes back to the conversation we were just having, getting a plan in place to just manage projects. So trying to prioritize and execute on stalled initiatives, starting with just getting the Trello board up and running. I think that's an easy one, but I think it's pretty important just having some kind of stripped down basic project management system would be really helpful. Obviously, we've got a lot of engineers, but I don't think everyone is like Agile trained. So trying to make it, accessible to a layperson who just wants to see where we are on these different projects will be really important. I think especially if we're opening up the site, if we're having a revamped e-NABLE.org, and if, for example, media personalities are hopping on and trying to see the kind of work that we're doing and we're making that publicly available, making sure they can clearly see what it is we're working on could be itself a powerful tool.
And
speaking of the new e-NABLE site,
if you don't mind a quick
go, please. Yeah,
there, Adam, I would just say that in addition to the community being able to see where we're at on projects, the Trello board is also an important tool for them to be able to see where they can help out, where there's opportunities.
Yeah, and giving, seeing to what degree we can open the Trello boards up so that people can, request like, hey, this is the thing I care a lot about.
Yeah.
I think we could do is there's space, like, do we have bandwidth, or can I lead up something we can add it to the board?
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. I think there's just, the hub is wonderful as a sort of social media thing. I think it's less great for sort of grouping people together and pushing them in a direction, or allowing them to decide what direction to go might be a better way of phrasing that. But speaking of the e-NABLE site, obviously I'll be meeting with Azure. Thank you, Jeremy, again, for setting up that connect. I'm meeting with him this afternoon, and we're going to be talking about timelines and a possible go-forward plan for executing on, what we want the site to be. Jeremy, I don't know if you wanted to sit in on that, or if you just wanted Azure and I to make that happen.
Well, it's kind of up to you. I kind of feel like it might be beneficial for me to be involved, just so that there is some kind of overlap with all the discussions we've had. If you're not opposed to that. I thought though, I saw an email from him saying that he had to reschedule to 4:30.
Yeah,
so it is still today. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're able to make that, I'll be Eastern time, so 3:30 our time.
I can make that. Yeah, if you're open to that, I'd love to join. Yeah.
Yeah, the way I have honestly, I took a page out of your book and I made it so that the Wildmont scheduling can't be changed, or new meeting can't be requested the day of, just for my own sanity.
Right.
So I'll go in and I'll delete that meeting. I'll send an invite for the three of us. And Jason, if you're able to join that, you're more than welcome. But I don't think this is an initiative that you're necessarily going to need to spend your time on.
Sure.
Sounds good. That'll work out well, because I was actually hoping to talk to you a little bit about how we wind down e-NABLE Web Central once this new site is up, and we're going to have to kind of redirect people in, and so that's part of what we can discuss there.
Right, making sure we're mitigating loss, bleed.
Exactly.
When we're having that is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, and then speaking of new sites, the revamped matching platform, I believe Azure is also going to be working on that. Is that right, Jeremy?
It's actually one and the same. The new e-NABLE.org site is where the new matching platform is.
Shoot.
Yeah, it's both an informational site. It would ideally be the homepage for e-NABLE to get people where they need to be, and it's also where the matching platform is housed.
Well, I just got 10 times more excited about it. That's enormous. Okay, I didn't understand that. That's oh man, that solves like 3 problems just on its own.
Well, that was kind of the goal. We're trying to bring things together more so that we don't have, all these bits and pieces spread all over the place. So that would be kind of the core where people get started.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I'm so excited about that, because, I really like the visuals on e-NABLing the future. And I like the purpose of the hub, and I like the idea of the matching platform, but the idea of just having it all in one place just seems so much easier, especially for people who are new to the community.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, and then speaking of which, all of this kind of goes back to what we've been talking about repeatedly about just really the people on this call kind of keeping e-NABLE afloat and trying to spread that out a little bit more, assigning people, encouraging people to step into leadership roles, encouraging people to take on you know, their own initiatives and make them happen, and provide them with the tools and the support they need to make that happen. But not asking the people on this call to spearhead every single project that comes along is the only way I see this as being a sustainable thing. And then, of course, many things beyond that. But I think for now, the bullets identified here are really the areas of focus that that people on this call have identified as the high priority items. Is that true? Am I missing anything?
No, I agree. And I would just, I add, I know this is part of your plan, but all of this is basically providing the foundation where once this is in place, I think that enables us to start working on sort of the outreach and PR to kind of get the word out to the community at large and bring people into this better infrastructure.
What a great segue. So speaking of PR and outreach, this is really what I want to spend my time talking about today. And I realize that I say that after having blathered for like 15 minutes already, but here we are. So I think that we have, and I was talking with Sarah about this morning. We had a quick call before this town hall meeting. We have this thing where this is primarily a community of makers. And I don't think that's a bad thing intrinsically. But I think that we can view that as an opportunity to really throw the doors open. There are two major communities of folks where we have not been, I think where we just haven't had the language or the mindset to understand the importance of bringing these other demographics of people in. The demographic number one are the actual recipients, you know, amputees and people who are going to be using assistive tech. I think establishing e-NABLE as a community for those people too, and not, you know, for people to discuss their experience in using the devices. I don't see how the devices get better or how the systems to deliver them improve without having the people actually using them as part of this conversation. And again, I don't think anybody's actively keeping them out, but we certainly have an opportunity to do a better job of bringing them in. And then demographic number two are the people that I think we need in order to kind of look at institutional awareness and trying to elevate e-NABLE's profile across landscapes and you know, regardless of border, and that is healthcare providers. Now, I think that Tainara is going to be doing a lot of awesome work in the coming months to try to make e-NABLE a, you know, more of a landing spot for people in the OT and medical communities. But I think that having those meetings and having more materials available to people about 3D printing for the healthcare practitioner and health and medicine for the 3D printer, you know, coming at it from both sides, I think is going to be really important for updating our process and making sure that things are part of a cohesive whole. So I wrote here that device design and delivery is just one part of that whole. I think that there are 5 discrete areas, which I'll outline in the next slide, that make up what I am proposing as our new, more holistic process. Basically, those 5 areas are administration, which are like management operations. Really, that's what the people on this call have primarily been concerning themselves with, which I think is great. There's device fabrication. That's really I think 90% of this community is primarily interested in design and delivery of devices. There's outreach, which is reaching out not only to more populations of people and establishing partnerships with other organizations, but also with healthcare practitioners and doing what Tainara is doing. It's reaching out to communities of amputees and device recipients, which I'm hoping Sarah can help us with in the coming months. There's fundraising, looking at sponsors and partnership agreements, which Jason is going to be leading up. And then there are targeted objectives, trying to define our mission and vision and bringing those into reality and making them more stable. So I keep alluding to this great diagram. Sorry, guys, it's it's pretty rudimentary stuff, but I think it didn't need to be much more complicated than this. this is the process that I'm proposing. Starting at the top, identifying need. I think having a new matching platform, having a new e-NABLE.org and directing that site traffic, making sure that when people hear about e-NABLE and they seek us out, whether they're a potential sponsor, whether they're a potential recipient, whether they're a potential maker, whether they're a representative of the news media, whoever they are, they hop onto our site and they immediately see where they need to go and how to get the information that they want. Once need has been identified, using the example of like your standard prosthetic hand to be printed, then we get into device pairing and fabrication. I think that we're doing part of this really well, which is selecting the device, printing it, and giving it to a person. What we're not doing as well is making sure that we're working with the individual to identify what their functional requirements are. Again, I think Tainara is going to be really helpful in getting together some standards and practices to assess strength, range of motion, doing pre and post functional assessments. It's also working with care teams and giving makers the language that they require to reach out to the individual's OT, to reach out to their physician with the recipient's permission, of course, and also providing the recipient with the education they need for device care, aftercare, making sure they know who to contact if something breaks. All of these little pieces that are part of a larger whole that I think are currently a little bit slipshod and not part of our "this is what you do" set of instructions. Moving on from fabrication and delivery, we go into, just fabrication, we go into device provision and follow-up. I'm kind of blending the orange and the blue steps. But that's where we need to make sure we've got good aftercare. We need to have 1 and 6 month follow-up meetings scheduled on the books. We've got to have a portal in place so that the recipient can reach out to their maker without it having to jump through hoops. Waivers and media. This is something that I tried to kick off right when I started the e-NABLE. And I just don't think we didn't have any of our ducks in a row leading up to it to make that happen. I think that we're at that point now. I think that we need to have more of a culture of makers as marketers here. So we need to make sure that every time a device is made, people feel emboldened to say, hey, can we take some pictures of you with your device? Would you be willing to sign a waiver to like allow us to use your device and materials? Would you be okay with us reaching out to a local news station close to you and saying, hey, this is the cool thing that we're doing together. You're helping us to make e-NABLE better, and we're helping you to maybe, be a little bit more functional in your day-to-day life. Do you think that that's something that you'd be interested in participating in? Obviously, we don't want there to be anything like a mandate. We don't want people to feel pressured to have their likeness distributed. But I think that is the only way we build up a case for the green step, which is fundraising pipelines. So all of the steps before this are the work that is being done. That green step is how we make more work possible. So using the stories, the media that we are gathering, the devices that are being fabricated as impetus for potential sponsors and grant givers and anyone who might want to partner with e-NABLE to say, this is an organization that's actually doing some good stuff. People aren't doing this for their own personal gain. They are actually making something like a positive improvement in this world. And this is something that I want to give money to. I think that's a really easy story to tell. And this is a highly visual thing. The service that e-NABLE provides is a highly visually appealing one. And I think it's one that doesn't seem to be getting old with time. So I think that we need to be capitalizing on this in the most literal definition of the word and trying to expand what e-NABLE can do in the months and years ahead. And then all of that goes back into bolstering our capacity to identify more need, fabricate more devices, then the cycle continues. Questions here?
I think it's great.
Ditto.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
So all of these steps, go ahead.
no, I just want to say, I mean, I'm sure there are issues to drill down on for each of these topics, but I think it's a great overview. I think it's the right vision. I think it's a bunch of work. So you're not going to do this all in the first quarter, but I do believe that you can make some real headway and ought to be able to get support for building this out over time. My only critical comment is that e-NABLE is now maybe you want to suggest that we change this, but it's e-NABLE.org. And if people go to what you've written, they won't get there.
Well,
Oh,
the
crap.
capitals
Thank
don't
you.
matter for the URL. The capitals don't matter, but the hyphen needs to be there. Yeah.
In fairness, I made this at 11 o'clock last night. That's going to be my defense.
That's
But
okay.
yes, thank you for the catch. I have revamped my all of my like signature lines and everything to be the capital NABLE. So I'm trying to be better about it. But yeah, no, thank you. And yes, there are going to be cycles and circles in each of these steps, and it's going to require an owner, or at least one owner. So like Tainara on the medical side. If Sarah is interested in stepping into helping to own the media side, and I've created a press kit this week, or released a draft of a template press kit that I'd like her to review, given her journalism background. Jason is going to be owning fundraising, and then all of us together, I think, just opening the doors for more people to jump in to take elements of this and create a knowledge base. That's, man, if there were a way that anyone who delivers a device either was required to or highly encouraged to complete like a standard training on all the different steps, I know that seems like a lot, but I feel like there's a way to gamify it and make it sort of built into how the site is organized. That makes this painless, or relatively painless. Because this is something that requires due diligence and responsibility. We're providing a hand to a person, and I don't think that's something that you do on a whim. So anyway, I'm really excited about this, and yes, if this looks good, this is what we're going to be building toward in the months ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
That said, I'm going to pass things over to Jason to talk about our fundraising targets and the kind of work that he's going to be doing moving forward.
I appreciate it, Adam. Thank you for the time here. So as you can see on the screen here, we've got we can summarize the our fundraising strategy into five initial points here. So firstly being just a straight corporate sponsorship, seeking out some of those opportunities. I'm going to go into a little more of these each in detail as we go through, but with the corporate sponsorship, a few different ways that we can approach that, and I've identified targets that can be that we can outreach to for particularly the corporate sponsorship and the cause marketing. But when it comes to the corporate sponsorship, there's a few different ways that can manifest, right? That could look like receiving a grant on behalf of another corporation, so grant sponsorship, sponsoring any events. There's named sponsorships for significant donations. There's also in-kind sponsorships, which is basically the donation of goods, services. One of those services could be something like advertising and social media shout outs there. The pitch going to the companies that we reach out to while we're seeking these corporate sponsorships is basically, brand enhancement for them. It's positive publicity, depending on the significance of any of the donations of goods and services. Obviously, there can be potential tax deductions as well. So we've already drawn up, cold call templates, proposal templates for this one as well. But underlying each of these opportunities is getting our interviews and our storytelling for the recipients. As Adam said, it's fairly easy sell to show that e-NABLE is doing great and valuable work for the communities and the recipients that they serve. It's a matter of getting those interviews, getting those storytelling events captured, and using that to help further our digital marketing outreach. So anything within the digital marketing outreach that can be something like, LinkedIn, Threads, for example, they basically the newer Instagram slash Twitter, but being able, it could be posting stories, it could be videos of maybe a recipient utilizing their devices. But using that digital marketing, once all of that groundwork is laid, to support other initiatives such as crowdfunding. So having a link to any of these videos to a crowdfunding site. Again, we have that very important step one of being able to gather enough materials, enough stories, enough collateral to be able to release these in a in some manner of regular cadence once we start to direct them to those appropriate places. And that still goes for corporate sponsorship as well, because as we're making these sort of cold calls, being able to direct them to something that shows the success stories. Obviously, we've talked about grants before, grants and awards. So being able to support those processes, making sure all the paperwork is together and aligned, that would definitely be something that we would consider a very high impact when it comes to fundraising. And then this last one here is very interesting. So cause marketing, it's a concept I ran through in my MBA classes here, but it's essentially finding a strategic partner, typically a for-profit business, that it's essentially, if you think of something like Tom's Footwear, where they you purchase a shoe and they donate shoes to children in need, and they have sort of that 1-to-1 ratio of make a sale, have donations there. It's setting up something like that. So that can look like going in and getting, hey, let's 2 to 3% of the sales for this particular product, or maybe we co-brand a marketing material, or co-brand a particular item or good that is for sale. So cause marketing, I think we have a good bit of opportunities there. It's going to be a creative solution to just to increase our overall fundraising efforts. We very much view this as a 5-pronged strategy without one directly leading the charge, right? So the culmination of this, where it is our intention to put e-NABLE in a good spot for success here.
Jason, quick question, just because marketing is not my strong suit, and
Yeah.
Obviously this is part of what you're bringing to the table. So with cause marketing, I get a little turned around on that. To me, it sounds a lot like when Culver's says they're going to donate a percentage of proceeds on a given night to like the local baseball team. Is that basically what it boils down to?
Yeah, basically what it is. And there's other pieces. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a particular good, because there is, think of something like an advertising company where you could get a percentage of services, right? Or 1% of my this company's social media post will be directed towards e-NABLE. So it can be on the goods or services side, but typically when it comes to cause marketing, you are looking at the goods. So percentage of sales, percentage of proceeds from a particular product donated to e-NABLE.
Top of mind, like if we got in touch with like a device manufacturer, like the 3D printer manufacturer, that if they agreed that like for a certain period of time that a percentage of all printer sales would be donated to e-NABLE, something like that, and that would go into part of their advertising. And okay, gotcha.
And we've and again, the value that it's cause marketing is intended to be mutually beneficial, right? Because there's, on e-NABLE's end, we can do social media promotion of the companies that we have the cause marketing agreements with. Thank you post, because of the work you do. It's helping people like this particular recipient who has this particular story or video coverage. It's positive press for them. It helps promote their business, and it truly makes people feel good about interacting with that particular firm. So there's goodwill that's built up through these things. So you have some intangible aspects there as well.
I want to also throw out that, and you and I have already talked about this, and I know that we're in step, but I just want to reassure anyone either watching the stream or in attendance that, you know, I don't think that we're planning on doing an any branch kind of plan, like swinging to any branch we can grab. I think that part of this is vetting potential sponsors and making sure that they're philosophically aligned and making sure that they are, you know, their ethos is one that e-NABLE would want to affiliate with.
Agreed.
But no, I think all that sounds great.
Yep. So we're vetting to do there, but we have identified a few targets, particularly for the corporate sponsorship and cause marketing. So happy to discuss that a little more. Adam, I think that might be on the next slide here. So when it comes to the cause, marketing, firstly, Adam, glad you mentioned the 3D printing, because you'll see I broke this up into large scale and medium scale, right? So when we're thinking of large scale, I mean, Amazon's about as large scale as it gets, right? But they do have basically charitable arms of what they do. So if you think of the Amazon Smile program, that's one of the things that they do inherent in that branch. It's just fundraising for nonprofits. Typically, the larger the company has a particular division that you can either call or send an email to. So that goes down the list all the way on for your large scale companies, all the way to something like Microsoft. With their cause marketing, Microsoft typically looks for something either in healthcare or something that is technological innovation, which I think we certainly meet both of those marks. And then on the medium scale side, Shapeways, that's a 3D printing service. It's a marketplace. So that's something where we sort of directly align. Same thing with MakerBot. That's desktop 3D printing. So in the marketplace there. So have those opportunities to reach out there. Of course, there's going to be a little more digging to do, just to make sure, as Adam said, that we socially align with
Jason,
these
I
firms.
hope you don't mind a quick interjection here. First of all, MakerBot and Ultimaker have merged, so it's now Ultimaker. MakerBot is just a sub brand now.
Sure.
And I've been closely partnered with them for 10 years and have had a lot of discussions with them about this. So you and I should probably compare notes, and I can make some connections there.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of history, and I can talk to you about that.
Yeah, sounds good. And then Adam, over to the corporate sponsorships.
One moment. I
didn't find a fun graphic there. Sorry. Oh, go ahead, John.
I just want to say that we have history with a number of these companies, and it'd probably be worthwhile for you guys to talk offline with Jeremy and me, just so we can give you backstories on various relationships.
Sure. Absolutely agreed. So all of this is prefaced with the step one of leveraging whatever collateral. That's part of sort of the Basecamp discovery, right? So it's leveraging whatever collateral is currently available, and I view relationships as part of that collateral. But also, having those interviews and the storytelling for the backup, so they once these companies are reached out to, being able to have this information that we can provide to them. So part of those Basecamp services are assessing these relationships.
Good.
Yeah. Excuse me. And I am I am losing my voice today, and I apologize. We're going to try to make it through the end of this one here.
Jason, do you want me to take it over?
I think I can power through the last one here.
Okay.
So as far as corporate sponsorship targets, you'll see probably a few familiar names as see Ultimaker on the list, right? Proto Labs, just a few different places. I also think maybe leveraging some biomedical relationships like Stryker or Boston Scientific. They have particular basically social good wings that we can go in and reach out to. Or for example, for Stryker, they have a corporate responsibility program that could align with some of the work that we're doing. And as far as your larger scale targets, just a bit more of the major players that you would expect.
Jason, I just remembered I have an in at Thermo Fisher Scientific too that I forgot about until this exact moment.
Beautiful.
We should look at.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, I am happy to field any questions about the strategy that we've aligned here.
On that last note, Adam, Thermo Fisher is also a customer of mine. They've done a lot of business with 3D Universe, and that goes for a lot of these companies here. So there might also be some opportunities to connect since we already have contacts with those where they've done business with us, and so we might be able to help make some of those connections.
I was a contracted ergonomist with Thermo Fisher for a number of years. I've got some connections with, at least locally in Kansas City.
Yeah, Thermo Fisher is just looking at this list. Thermo Fisher is a customer. Medtronic, Johnson & Johnson, HP, Intel. A lot of these guys
That's awesome.
Are customers. So I can,
holy cow! I forget how connected you are, Jared. That's awesome. And well, any other questions about sponsors or marketing or comments?
And I'll just say that the telegenicness of kids getting hands and arms was in the early days at least extremely strong and powerful. I think it's still true. I don't think it's actually stopped, but there are fewer of those videos circulating, probably because it's less newsworthy, but I don't think it's less engaging. So thinking about having some of those video clips from the past at the ready and saying, wouldn't it be great if your product was featured in one of these, might really get them thinking.
And I saw you sent a link to some stuff, John. I also, Adam, just sent you an email, which you'll get to later, with links to videos that I've done in the past that might be useful. And I can carve out pieces from those if you wanted to put together something else. So it's a starting point.
And I think that just providing folks with the tools they need to just make this a part of the process of capturing these and having a place to store them and making sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we've obtained the appropriate permissions from the recipients or their guardians. I think all of that is part of what we need to do. And I think that especially as we move to a new site, we can make it exactly the way we need to support this new process. So this is great. Let me just land the plane because we've only got a few minutes left. In terms of what Wildmont, and thank you, Jason. I know that you're battling the crud, so thanks for jumping in. So what we're going to be doing the next week, I've got the chapters leaders meeting, which I believe I am heading up. Sarah, are you going to be on that call too?
Yes, I will be there.
Sweet. Just to make sure I've got the logistics down, are you going to be starting the call and I'll just be talking through it, or how exactly does that work?
I will be there. I'll start the call and I will have the recording. But I think
perfect.
You will then take the lead.
Yep, that sounds great. I just wanted to make sure I didn't need to start the stream or anything.
No, I have that
okay.
covered.
So I'll be doing a high-level overview of the Wildmont partnership. And also, I'd like to turn over materials for this press kit. So Sarah, I'm going to be sending you that draft this afternoon. No need to feel like you need to have that rush to have that done before the chapters meeting. But if we could just talk about it and make sure that it's on their radar as something that's going to be forthcoming in the next few weeks, I think that would be great. Tainara, who was on the call and who might still be, is kicking off the healthcare group meetings in August. It looks like these are going to be bi-monthly, which is awesome. And this is a tremendously important step to make sure that we are assessing device quality, that we're providing the appropriate education to recipients, bringing more clinicians into the fold. I think that she has a lot of really big plans there, and I think she's the right person to do it. I'm going to be sending out at least one poll, maybe multiple, next week with questions about e-NABLE's mission and vision statements. I'd like to crowdsource some ideas for the language there. And I've got a couple mocked up, but I don't want to put my thumb on the scales before people have a chance to weigh in. So we'll just keep it open-ended and see what people come up with if there's any engagement. Obviously, Jason has been talking about sponsors and partners. He is going to be more or less heads down when he's not engaging in conversations with people here or in the community. But he's going to be working primarily externally and independently to see what our avenues are here. And then finally, speaking of that press kit in getting media, I don't think I really need to restate this because we were just talking about it. But my number one, the thing that I'm most fired up about right now is just getting more videos, more stories, more pictures, more people, more faces. I didn't really have a chance to put on my outreach hat today, but I did want to note that our first device shipment arrived in Kabul this week. And I will be working with the processes on the ground there outside of my Wildmont role and squarely as an e-NABLE rep to make sure that they have what they need to make sure that their inventory starts being built. I also reached out to Taiwo in Kenya today. He's a prosthetist on the ground, much like my friends in Kabul. And he is really interested in seeing how we can establish something like a regular pipeline so people have an opportunity to provide for, alternative devices, you know, i.e. our devices to device recipients in Kenya
Adam,
around his neck of the woods. Yep.
Adam, if you don't mind a quick, I know we're going to have to wrap here, but I just wanted to make one comment on your last bullet there that, you know, putting together a press kit and step-by-step instructions next week. I will say that feels a little bit premature to me. I mean, it's your call, but if we're just now getting to the point of trying to craft the statements of mission and vision and get clarity on kind of how do we talk about e-NABLE, does it not maybe make sense to get that work done and get the messaging clarified before we try to put together a press kit?
Yeah, I think that sounds totally fair. Maybe a better way to put it is I'll have a press kit drafted by next week that we can align because obviously we need to get the website in place, we need to get the media
exactly like where are we sending library them? Yeah
right. So really what I mean is we're going to have this outlined and I want to make sure that people know that this is part of the ecosystem. And what I really want to do is once everyone has had a chance to review this call, if we can have some conversations about that process flow I outlined and see if anyone has any strong opinions. Well, I'm sure people will. That's what people do, is have strong opinions. But I'd like to make sure that people understand.
That's actually an important note, Adam, in terms of having people review this. I know, you know, we always share these town halls are being live streamed and there's a playlist and all that. But for this particular one, I would suggest that somebody posts something separate in the hub specifically calling attention to this recording, as it provides a great introduction to the program. I don't know if that's something that you want to do, or is that something that somebody else does? I don't know who's best to create that post.
I'm happy to. Sarah, if you feel like this is hey, e-NABLE had this conversation with Wildmont and we want to post it there, if that's something you want to do, I'm easy.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
A quick note. You know, we've gotten devices to remote places in the past. Sometimes it's a big success. Sometimes it just it just disappears. What's different about what you're doing is that you're committed upfront to this circular process, including accountability. And we're trying to socialize that. It occurs to me that your flow diagram would be a good story for you to tell if you, when you've done the complete loop, for example, with the Afghan case, then putting a picture at each point, tracking the device as it travels, right? Sort of turning
Sure.
a life cycle would be a great way of telling a particular story, but also beginning to socialize the commitment to the iterative process.
Yeah. And really what I don't want to do is have some kind of like white knight thing pop up where we say, oh, we're going to help this community and do what so many missions have done in the past, where it's like there's a big flux and people provide like, 20 wheelchairs or whatever to some small village, and then they're gone, and there's no infrastructure in place to like actually support people moving forward. What I want to do is establish partnerships that last and make sure that there's a process that can be, if I get on a plane and it explodes or whatever, I want someone to be able to pick up the pieces and keep this moving.
Agreed.
So yeah, that's what I want to get done. But I know we're past time. But if you have any questions or comments, yeah, and then Jeremy will connect about me taking over town halls.
Sounds good.
Moving forward, whenever you're able to.
Yeah, we'll set something up. Thank you very much for the presentation, both you and Jason. It's very exciting.
Good work. Very promising.
Thank
See you
you.
all next week.
Bye.